This is the finished result after putting all 4 pieces together.
And now the pinning process for the entire...
I
just ran into a lot of complications. It's been 4 days since I've sewn this, but during those 4 days, I've managed to sew the inseams with needle and thread. The reason why I did this was because I didn't want the sewing machine to sew it out of place, because it takes a tremendous amount of time to undo what I did on sewing machine and redoing it. It's a very long and painful process for doing it. So this is what the finished back looks like so far, and I'm gonna start sewing this by machine. I just ran into a lot of complications with the sewing machine. I used a test cloth and I actually found the problem. Turns out I forgot to weave the thread into one crucial part of the machine, which was quite a silly mistake. I'm gonna start sewing again in this time lapse. I've actually completed the first sewing pattern of the entire waistcoats that I've been trying to make, and the method of where I just do a quick stitch before sewing machine is actually a very good method for me. And besides, I just saw an Instagram post, which is your Instagram post, General Marquis de Lafayette sur Instagram. Et si vous pouvez parler français, c'est bien. Vous êtes très marrante et vous... Je vous aime, mais pas pour l'amour, parce que vous êtes marrant et je pense que je vous voir sur une video. Anyways, I'm gonna start sewing another sewing pattern, the other half of the backside of the waistcoat. So while I was pinning these pockets, I watched a video by Townsend about how travel worked back in the 1800s. Even further than that, also in the 1700s. Transportation was so bad back then that you couldn't even travel anywhere in a carriage because the road conditions were really bad. You were essentially driving the road that's the equivalent of a 50-year-old road that hasn't been paved by the construction site. But most roads back then were also not even paved at all. The roads were even worse than the roads that were constructed by the Roman Empire, yet it was 1,000 years later. I think that we take our transportation for granted today. Even if there's like construction sites, according to what Joss Townsend said, we should be very thankful that we live in the 21st century in that case. And we also have something that flies in the sky called the airplane, which was even non-existent in the 1700s and the 1800s, including America. Now, time for a time-lapse of me sketching these pockets for my waistcoat. Now I'm gonna start sewing, and these sewing patterns on the very front, I'm gonna do a 1/2 inch seam on this, and then I'm gonna stitch them together along with the back sides. And now I'm gonna watch some late night TV shows with my family this Friday while I sew this. See you in the next scene, guys. Well, I actually sewed together these, and they wound up very successful. And now I'm going to start pinning them together. Here's the back side, and here's the front side. I'm going to start pinning them together, and I'm going to stitch each of them together into the vest that I originally cut out onto tissue paper. So then it'll end up looking like this. I'm looking forward to see the inner lining put together before my eyes. And now the pinning process for the entire inner lining of the vest should commence. This is the finished result after putting all 4 pieces together of the inner lining, and I'm about to do the outer lining now with another bed sheet. Of course, once I'm done sewing the outer layer, I'm definitely gonna color it tan so I don't mix up this one with that one. And then last but not least, I'm gonna add the buttons and the buttonholes, which might be very challenging. Now let's see how it looks on me. This actually fits. I'm actually surprised that replicating a pattern of the original vest actually worked for sewing it. I'm very impressed with this. By the way, I'm about to cut my very long hair.